Hi, so we are live on the M Word, brought to you by IamSoundAcademy.com. So it's just myself this week, Zoe, and I'm talking to the wonderful and inspiring and super interesting Taylor Chavez Goggin. Taylor, for those of you who don't know, is the founder of Shroomi, which is an amazing functional mushroom supplement over in California. Another adaptogen fan and a seeker of all things fungi. So I'm super excited to have you on the show with us today. I really would like to find out a little bit more about what kind of drove you to found your business, your love for mushrooms, and what your future plans are. So Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Zoe. So happy to be here.
No worries.
I know we've been talking about this for a couple months, so it's here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to see people's faces. So soon we'll be able to do this over a coffee, but for now.
Exactly. Come out to California when things are better.
Come and get some sunshine. So Shroomi, I mean, I have discovered it myself, obviously founded Function, so been super geeky and obsessed about mushrooms for a long time, and have spent my time investigating who's doing cool things with shrooms all around the world. And your brand jumped out to me. I thought the shots were super cool. I love the fact that we can get mushrooms, functional mushrooms and other adaptogens into our diets and into our ceremonies, and in ways that doesn't involve popping a pill. So I love that there was another brand doing that. And I've read a little bit about you and why you founded the company, but I think our guests might not know about it, especially maybe some of the ones in the UK. So yeah, how did Shroomi come about?
Yeah, so Shroomi, we launched last June, mid-pandemic. The idea for Shroomi was definitely years of evolution, I think, and in certain things coming together, primarily personally. And so I guess I'll start with back in 2017. I was traveling in Japan, and I've always been kind of obsessed with their culture and love their art, their history, their food. And so I was lucky enough to visit Tokyo and Kyoto for the first time there and see it firsthand and really live their culture. And so eating a lot of their food and really noticed a lot of the mushrooms being presented in their dishes, and also learned about how mushrooms have been used in their medicine for hundreds, thousands, if not thousands of years. And so that piqued my interest. I'd been in the food business since about 2013, working for some energy bar company, another cold pressed juice company. So at the time I was at a cold pressed juice company here in Southern California, and we were doing shots. And so I thought, it'd be pretty cool to put mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms into like a tasty beverage. And looking back, there wasn't really, mushrooms weren't really found at all at that time, maybe in the supplement aisle, at most in the States here. And so I just thought, there's an opportunity to bring, the benefits of mushrooms to the States, and kind of incorporate it into delicious foods. And since I was in kind of the juice world, the shot world, that was kind of the natural first step for me, to start developing these shots. And so that was still 2017. That's, 3.5 years ago now. Then in 2018, I had a personal event hit me where on Father's Day, my father had tried to take his own life, and he, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I learned about, his mental health struggles, and his journey up to that point. And luckily it was an attempt, and he's doing much better now. But that piqued my interest in learning a lot more about mental health, the epidemic, that the silent epidemic that we live with across the world that affects millions of people. But during this time also, I've been researching a lot about psilocybin, a compound found in mushrooms, and how psilocybin and some other psychedelic compounds, they're starting to research or have a renaissance on research for depression, PTSD, anxiety, addiction. And so that was kind of the aha moment from this really, low point, for me in my life up to now, dealing with that and helping my father through this, to start a company that had the mushrooms, non-psychedelic for now, but still with massive medicinal benefits, functional benefits. I have a company that champions mushrooms and mental health as sort of its mission, its core foundation. And so that's how Shroomi was born, and like wanted to create a company that was all in on mushrooms. So obviously the name, indicates that, and I wanted to, up until, or I guess, at that point in time, from my opinion, there was a lot of, the mushroom companies that were out there were definitely more, I guess, this medicinal, again, found in the supplement aisle. And I wanted to bring more like more fun, approachable, mass consumer brand, appeal by creating Shroomi. And so the shots were the first line. We launched last year in Whole Foods and other Southern California natural retailers. And then we just launched our first functional ground mushroom coffee. So we're super excited.
That's amazing. So many things that I want to ask you from you telling me all of that. So super exciting that the company's growing and that you're launching the coffee. I think there's lots of interesting things with how the mushroom market's developed. I think we've had a lot of like mycophobia, where people didn't really understand what mushrooms are about. They were these slimy, weird things that grew in the dark, which is a total myth. And, people didn't understand them, or they just thought they got you high. And, some people like that. Some people are being kind of shied away by the whole war on drugs and, the whole post 60s and 70s, research that was done on them. And they kind of went a bit underground. They obviously were criminalized. But it still left this bit of mycophobia. And I think there's been a lot of brands who, they've sat in the supplement aisles, and that's been very medicinal and kind of maybe more not mainstreamed and thought of as a bit woo-woo. To then being like kind of proud about it and like calling your brand Shroomi, calling, whether it was Four Sigmatic, whose strapline was like on shrooms, and really kind of pushing forward this mushroom centric message. What do you think has changed to make consumers now suddenly more accepting of mushrooms? Do you think it's one thing? Do you think there are contributing factors?
I think the attitude in the States, I'll speak for the United States because I know that a little bit better than Europe. But, I think maybe for the last 15 or 20 years, we've come to appreciate and respect or more respect Eastern medicine, whether it's in some of their traditions, whether it's yoga or meditation. You have a lot of, you have core power here. You have the, yoga studios started popping up, in early 2000s across the country. You have meditation now taking hold, in particular during the pandemic, but even before that, with certain apps and locations you can go to meditate. And so I think there's wave of appreciation for Eastern medicine. And so I think that's helped drive awareness of mushrooms, and oddly during the pandemic, people's mental health, people on the screen all the time, socially distanced, isolated. I think people's awareness of mushrooms have increased dramatically during this time in an odd way, being stuck in front of a screen and some of these issues kind of being more prevalent in their lives. And so I would say, those reasons, with the addition of Four Sigmatic and some of these other champion brands kind of leading the way, which has been great, because I know we've talked about it, like the more mushroom brands there are, to generalize, the better for everybody, because at the end of the day, it's about getting these benefits in as many, for as many people as possible.
It is, yeah, I totally agree. And it is about helping to mainstream these products and take them out of this kind of slightly woo-woo, slightly alternative place. And I think even that whole kind of stereotype around herbal medicine and, this kind of hippie stereotype is totally being smashed down now because, yoga is cool. It's a discipline. People are using apps like Headspace, and people are now turning back to the natural world to help support them for ailments that they may have. We're tired of being prescribed drugs from the doctors. We're tired of having to pop pills, and they're not working, quite frankly, anymore. And I think mental health is a huge problem globally, and there's absolutely no doubt of the correlation between, excess social media, more prescription drugs, bad diets, less sleep, that's contributing to this huge problem that's going across demographics. People in their 50s and 60s to teenagers to it's affecting people in all parts of their life. And I think our inability to cope with the stresses that are very unnatural in many ways life is creating. I just love that adaptogens are now, a couple of years ago, and even still a lot of people don't know what an adaptogen is. For those who are listening, adaptogens are herbs and fungi that help balance our natural bodily homeostasis, our hormone systems, our sleep patterns, and help to support our immunity, which is key. And I think during the pandemic, people had a lot of time at home. They had a lot of time to kind of sit with their own demons, but they also had a lot of time to research. I'm feeling depressed and I'm feeling crap. And some people couldn't get to their doctors for normal prescriptions because certainly in the UK, doctors' surgery stopped taking anyone that wasn't a COVID patient. So suddenly people went, oh, shit, okay, I'm out here on my own. How can I help? And how can I look at helping to support myself naturally? So one of the, and there haven't been many, but one of the, I think, silver linings of what's happened to us over the last year, people have started to really look to their immunity and their immune systems and to how they could help naturally support them. You touched on psilocybin, which I think is a really interesting topic. The studies are opening up here in the UK, King's College London, Imperial College, Johns Hopkins. People are now starting to look at psilocybin for a really valid treatment for depression and mental health problems. What's your experience of that market and that side of the mushroom market in the States?
Well, yeah, I think, our whole thing is, just back to your point prior to touch on that is like, our whole thing is like, get back to human nature. There was a lot, there's this symbiotic relationship with humans and nature. We're here, but trying to preserve, we're the guests on Earth. And so it's like, get back to human nature on that front, from a environment standpoint, from a sustainability, social responsibility standpoint, get back to human nature in the sense of, taking care of your body in a natural way without, popping the pills, without, doing some of these pharmaceutical, taking some pharmaceutical, solutions, which there's definitely times for that. But I think on the psychedelic side, on that research side, there's a lot going on. They're starting to decriminalize a lot of cities in the States on that front. So that's a good first second step. I'm literally learning, just like you, we're learning things like every day, as far as new research coming out. And it's not just psilocybin, it's MDMA, it's ayahuasca, it's other compounds that seem to have so far some very valid and promising results. And so it's just, you're starting to see public companies come into the market with Compass Pathways, and a bunch of Canadian publicly traded companies come in. And so obviously it's getting a lot of investor attention and headlines, so thus consumer attention. So that's all good. I think we just have to not tread lightly, but like just take it day by day with results coming out. But it's definitely very exciting, and it's I'm learning things literally every day, which is great, and have to adapt to that.
Yeah, and I think it feels like another toolbox, another tool in our toolbox of like empowerment. If we start to understand, Paul Stamets, the world-renowned mycologist, he's been going on about microdosing psilocybin for years. He's developed his patented stack, which is psilocybin and lion's mane and niacin in combination, and you kind of find the right levels that work for you. You know, and I know of lots of friends personally who microdose to treat depression, and I think the more data that's coming out, the more research, you know, because of the world we live in, data is easily found. You know, there's great websites that publish scientific peer-reviewed papers. It's no longer about kind of hearsay and guessing. I think what's great is suddenly this ancient medicine, and we know these ancient wise people, like they knew where it was at, right? They got discredited over the years through Western medicine is amazing. Let's not discredit it one bit. However, we don't know everything, and we think that we do know, and we kind of push to the side these wise wisdom keepers and call them crazy or call them, you know, crocs or whatever it was. And actually the treatments and medicines that they've been using for thousands of years, for millennia, had actually served us pretty well. But what excites me now is the science that's coming out to go, there we go, told you so. You know, why have people been using chaga for thousands of years in the wintertime, you know, in Siberia and Northern Europe? Because it's full of antioxidants. So people that drank chaga tea would get less sick. You know, they didn't understand that it was full of bioactive compounds, but they knew something, and they, you know, they would use it and continue using it. And I think that's great. It's kind of like a told you so. Nature saying, I told you we were right.
And that's what drew me to mushrooms. I mean, ironically, I think like many people, like I grew up as a kid not liking mushrooms. My mom would put on a salad and all I knew was button mushroom, and I hated mushrooms. But what, you know, now it's quite the opposite. I cook them all the time and love them. But what drew me to mushrooms, you know, as kind of a champion ingredient was the scientific, you know, the data coming out, the research that had already been done. It's so well studied, or one of the most well studied herbs, you'd have to say. And so, yeah, that's what drew me to mushrooms was the clinical trials. That there's substance, there's history, and there's data behind it, and there's just so much more coming out every week.
And what I think is fascinating is it seems like we're moving into the age of fungi. Like it's not just food and adaptogens that we eat. It's, you know, biohabitat restoration, breaking down plastics, vegan leather, protein sources. Every day I don't know if it happens with you, but every day someone sends me any article on anything fungi based. People are like, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And every day I'm getting an article about, you know, something else, packaging, composting, you know, putting health back into our soils, which soil health is a huge problem globally with our farming industry and our farming methods. And so now they're finding that by fertilizing with mycelium and fungi instead of pesticides and artificial stuff, you know, you can quickly get that bacteria and get that micro ecosystem back into the soils again. And
same with like radiation. And I mean, it's amazing what they're coming out with. I mean, I think LinkedIn and maybe Google, you know, they have the algorithms, but I seem to get the same articles or similar. So yeah, it's, you know, Adidas is making, you know, mycelium based, you know, leather or material. It's crazy. It's crazy. Not just food and beverage. And we're both in the beverage. Well, I'm now in the food space, but you know, we're in the beverage space to start.
Yeah, it's really exciting. But I guess with it as well, I have not concerns, but I'm aware that when anything becomes more popular and mainstream and becomes a trend, the worry is people will come into the market with not great quality products, and people are very aware of, like when turmeric became popular, people sticking turmeric in everything, and basically sometimes it was almost just a coloring, you know, it didn't actually have much curcumin in it, the levels of turmeric weren't very high. You know, when something becomes popular, everything's, you know, acai or whatever it is, and then suddenly, even though those original plants and foods are extremely good for you, people would just literally putting it into everything. Oh, it's a turmeric flavored water, or it's a turmeric, and you're just like, come on, like how much nutritional value is in that? And for me, we haven't seen it yet because I guess, you know, mushrooms are a lot more of a premium product. They're a lot more expensive. But I think as this market grows, we will see large mass production growers, you know, bringing to market inferior products. And what are your thoughts on that? And what are you doing to try and ensure your consistency and product quality? And
Yeah. So I mean, we source. So I started researching mushrooms right away, basically when I got back from Japan, and started resourcing at that time what was the producers, the growers out there, or, around the world, and primarily in Asia at that point, and in Canada. Kind of what was out there, their practices, sustainability, organic test, heavy metal testing,
Mm.
the ability to scale, all these things, and testing not just heavy metals but the other compounds that are super important, and making sure that there's some traceability or some transparency there. And so, yes, I mean, I think it's up to the early, or I should say the early companies, like Function, and others. It's up to us to kind of set the tone, or hopefully set the tone as far as the types of mushrooms we're putting in, or how much mushrooms we're putting in, where we're getting them. We get them from the generations of Chinese farmers in the highlands, that grow it naturally on wood logs, that are certified organic, that are tested for heavy metals twice, in China and then in Canada. And so, that's our source now. Things are always changing, so always looking for ways to improve sustainability and traceability. So, we're not set on this source, but for now we feel like it's a good one. But we want to make sure that we're kind of in front of things, as things progress, and hopefully it not get too diluted as an ingredient. You're not just putting, there's a water out there that has like dusting of mushrooms, and so it's like, I just feel like, I don't know, I hope it just doesn't become like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's the worry that people are kind of coming in and won't be using quality products, or just using them to kind of say that they've got mushrooms in it. But I think, transparency is key. And for me, that was exactly what I did. My mushrooms are actually Asian as well at the moment. We might be moving over to a Nordic source. But, Asia have been growing and cultivating mushrooms longer than anyone else on the planet. They've pretty much got it down. For me, organic is always really important, because, mushrooms are like sponges. So they're sucking up everything that's within their environment and within their substrate. Organic, heavy metal testing, and some transparency. Anyone that wants to see certification on where we get our mushrooms from, anyone that wants to see their, mineral compositions, for people that would know what they're looking at. We have reports and stuff available that people can feel confident with that. And I think if right now, because it's still, people that love mushrooms, and once you love them and you understand them, you probably, I take a powdered supplement in my coffee every morning. I kind of make my own version, and so I understand about dosages. I've understood about the supplements and the extraction methods, and what works, and what I should be looking out for. But I think it's really important that customers can come on that journey with us, and I definitely want to kind of set that benchmark for quality. And I think anyone who is using a mushroom needs to be very transparent about that, and make sure that they're sharing that information, just so the market, because what I would hate to happen is want it to kind of really start building, and then suddenly people go, oh, this isn't a real thing, there's not much evidence on it, the product quality isn't that good, or for the customer then to become a little bit nervous about it, because it's still a bit of a thing to get some people into drinking mushrooms. You're like, mushroom in a coffee, or mushrooms in a beer, because they still think about those weird little mushrooms in the salad that they were made to eat as a kid. And I think they don't understand exactly what functional mushrooms are. And I mean, what's your experience? The Asia thing sounded fascinating, like being in Japan, and that experience. I've sadly never been to Japan or China, but it's such a fascinating culture, and their medicine and their wellness culture as well is just fascinating. But what was your experience of mushrooms when you were there? Like, were you eating lots of I mean, the variety, most people think there's like 4 types of mushroom, right? Portobello, button mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your experience of finding functional mushrooms out there? And were you like eating fresh lion's mane, or what was in the food?
I didn't have lion's mane there, but I just remember going to a few restaurants and actually in particular a few open air markets, and there being like literally the entire block was mushrooms, and I was like, whoa, this is like, and going to certain restaurants and there being literally half a menu of the beverage menu is just like mushroom teas, like that you could choose,
Wow.
mix and match, do different things of that nature. And then obviously like the physical mushrooms being cooked and sauteed and things of that nature. So yeah, that was sort of my experience with that, and their markets in Japan are amazing. Whether it's seafood or farmers, it's incredible. I mean, the seafood market there is insane. It is unbelievable. You see more fish, more sea animals than you ever knew. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it is definitely a moment to experience.
And so what was the mushroom, talk to us about what mushrooms you use in the drinks, in your shots.
Yeah, so we use 5. We use lion's mane, which is probably the most well-known mushroom, functional mushroom here in the States. Would you say that's the same over in the UK?
Yeah, I think lion's mane and reishi are definitely the most well known. I mean, I have never eaten it in the woods, but I've seen it in woodlands here and in Scandinavia as well. I've eaten it fresh and it's delicious.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't eat meat anymore, but it tastes kind of like, it has the texture of chicken. And a kind of almost like crabby chicken, smoked chicken flavor, like in a pan with some garlic. Oh my God, it was the most delicious mushroom I've ever eaten, I think.
Yeah, we're lucky to have it. We have a vendor, a farmer here locally, just over the hill in Santa Barbara, that grows it. They do some pink oysters and maitake and lion's mane, so I was able to have some. Delicious, but yeah, so we do the lion's mane. We have the cordyceps. We have turkey tail, reishi, and chaga. And so in the shots, concept is to combine organic cold pressed juices, pomegranate juice, mandarin juice, yuzu juice, which is like a Japanese lime, citrusy, with functional mushrooms, and so make it into a delicious on the go functional shot. So we basically combine. We have reishi and chaga in all 3 of the SKUs, and then we swap out cordyceps, turkey tail, and lion's mane, and create an energy shot, a focus shot, and an immunity shot. And so there's 1,500 milligrams of organic mushrooms in there, and it's a 2-ounce shot. And,
amazing.
I think people are starting to catch on. We launched mid-pandemic, where I think shaping people's view of mushrooms is definitely a challenge that I know we both faced. In particular during the pandemic. And so, we haven't been able to really demo anything, give out samples, anything of that nature, talk about the product, even go hold, store trainings. We haven't really been able to do that, not allowed to do that until last month. And so we're starting to do a ton of demos in the Whole Foods that we're in. And the feedback has been amazing. And I'm starting to notice people it's more like people coming up to the stand and saying, hey, I've heard about mushrooms. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? And less like, what are you talking about? Like less blank stares and more like, I've heard about it and I want to learn a little bit more. I'm interested. So that's been fun to see. And that I feel like that shift has just happened maybe the last 4 or 5 months for us at the very least.
That's amazing. So what's your top line mushroom pitch when someone comes over and goes, what are these mushrooms all about?
Yeah, well, first I say it tastes nothing like mushroom. I say the consistent, you're going to see, because it's brown, that there's mushrooms in there, and you give it a good shake because they tend to fall to the bottom with our shots. But yeah, no, it's a delicious functional shot. It's immune regulating, anti-inflammatory. The focus shot with the lion's mane is our #1 seller. Again, I think people are most aware of that mushroom with the cognitive support and the neuron regeneration. So I think in particular during COVID too, anything that kind of is a cognitive support cognitive regulator, has been very attractive to consumers that know about it and consumers that don't. So that's sort of the pitch in a nutshell. But yeah, we combine with delicious juices. It's easy to take, and it's a step up from your conventional wellness shot. There's the ginger and the turmeric shots that have been around here for probably about 10 years and really hit it big probably the last 5 years. So this is really a step up from the conventional shot that most people are aware of.
Definitely. It's like the next generation of wellness. I think people are going right. And it's the same with alcohol-free beer or with the no and low products. So it's like, okay, I've removed the alcohol. Okay, I'm doing my shot every morning of lemon and ginger. Like, what's next? Like, what else can we be doing to boost that? So yeah, you use the similar mushrooms to the ones that we use. They're all my favorite mushrooms as well.
I love your bottle. I love your mushroom.
The little curvy bottle.
It looks like a mushroom to me. I think it's the cutest thing ever.
That bottle was, I picked it because I thought the same. I was like, that looks super cool. Then realized half the brewers in the UK can't bottle with that bottle. So it took me ages to find a brewing partner to do it. But yeah, my little mushroom bottle. Yeah. What's your favorite mushroom and why? And what about the properties in it? Because some people listening and will know lots about mushrooms, but maybe some don't know. What makes the mushrooms that you use, that we use, what gives them their like superhero grade?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm also attracted to the lion's mane just because of kind of the cognitive support. I think all the inputs that I have on a daily basis, I check email, check on my phone way too much probably. That, and just the stress, I guess, of starting a business in pandemic, I think I've been drawn to the lion's mane and doing that daily for kind of my, and it has the reishi and the chaga too. So there is, some stress regulator, stress reduction there with those as well. But I just feel like that focus shot that has the 500 milligrams of lion's mane, in addition to the reishi and chaga, is my favorite and most useful during this time. Maybe the turkey. I'm pretty attracted to the turkey tail mushroom as well. The clinical research on white blood cell count and cancer cells and things of that nature. So that immunity shot is definitely a bit stronger. So I prefer the taste, I would say, of the focus shot with the lion's mane.
Yeah, turkey tail is it's fascinating. I mean, the studies that came out in Asia that they've done with chemotherapy, and I think now in Japan, you're prescribed a lot of the times high doses of Trimites vesicolor when you're having chemotherapy. It's that much of a strong immune support. The compounds within it, help break down free radicals, and they massively kind of help your body produce things to support your immunity. And those studies have been done. I think there was a group where they had 2 patients all having chemotherapy, and chemotherapy, obviously, as we all know, is really savage. Yes, it kills cancer cells, but it pretty much wipes out a lot of your immune cells, and at the same time. And the study group that were taking high concentrations of turkey tail didn't lose their hair, they didn't experience nausea, there was less remittance of the cancer coming back. It was just really fascinating and something that's so powerful.
Yes. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm so excited to see other brands coming into the market, like we talked about. So we're learning so much, and I'm really excited for what's to come, on the functional side and the psychedelic side of mushrooms.
Yeah. I mean, that's super exciting. And then at the same time, being an entrepreneur, starting your own business, that's an exciting whirlwind challenge in itself. I mean, before you were working within grocery, right? You were working with brands, so you were kind of familiar with the world that you were going into. But what's been your biggest challenge, aside from the big C, which we all had? But what's been the biggest challenge in launching Shroomie?
I think because of the big C, I think this consumer awareness, a consumer education piece has been. I mean, it's anybody that's done this for some time will tell you, like, it's the kind of the less difficult part to get on the shelves when you're talking brick and mortar. That's less difficult to do. The hard part is getting people to know about it, to be excited about it, to come in and be looking for it, to be on their shopping list. And especially during COVID, this, the shopping list has now turned digital so quickly. And so that cart, not only, I guess, educating or competing for people's physical attention, but their digital attention too. How do you make consumers aware on e-com, platforms, on delivery services, on Amazon, all these ways that people are now getting their food and beverage. It's changed so rapidly. And so I think that's been a huge challenge for us is kind of, especially during the early months of last year, just everything was changing so quickly. People's habits are changing. How do we kind of stay ahead of that or be smart about our education and where to educate? So that's been definitely a challenge, the most challenging piece for us today. But that's starting to change a little bit or come back to some normalcy. I think, people's habits are forever change, I think, as far as online shopping is concerned with grocery. So that's here to stay. And so, but yeah, people are starting to come out and things are a little bit better here in California when it comes to COVID at the moment. I know it's not the case in other states and other countries for sure, but yeah, so excited just to kind of get out there and educate face to face about mushrooms.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's going to be a really important part of your piece. So would you say what's your strongest sales channel at the moment?
Right now it's brick and mortar and natural grocery channel. With the coffee, we're looking at other channels, food service, which totally plummeted during COVID, but that's starting to come back to life a little bit. Corporate food service in general. Coffee is a dry good, so it's a little bit easier to distribute than a refrigerated product. That's what our thoughts are. So that's always a challenge, especially just in distribution or direct to consumer online. So yeah, but at the moment with the shots, it's definitely in the grocery channel in California. We're in a chain in Utah as well, but primarily California at the moment.
That's amazing. And how many people in your team now, or is it still just you?
It's just me. I have an outside sales rep as well that comes and helps. I work with a couple other brands, but it's really just been me, and so we're just trying to grow it to a certain point that makes sense to bring some help on, the right person, the right people to help continue to grow it outside of California.
I know that feeling. It's like you've got to try and keep it as tight at the beginning, to make financial sense, but then eventually when you're just like stretched so thin, I think when a good time to go. Maybe it's been a blessing in disguise. You haven't had to be out doing trade shows and road shows and sampling. You had to bring on board more people, I guess, a lot earlier on.
Yes, absolutely.
So you've just launched a coffee. So you're getting up there with some of the more well-known competitors, such as Four Sigmatic, who obviously have been. Four Sigmatic were actually the guys that got me into mushrooms really in the first instance. They're the first kind of commercial, cool brand that I saw that wasn't like kind of the dark shelves of the health food store. So what was the decision making in wanting to go into coffee? I mean, you said dry goods, obviously way easier to post pack, lighter. You don't have to refrigerate them. But what spurred on that NPD for you guys?
Well, I think getting with the mission of getting mushrooms into as many people's minds and bodies as possible. Picking a category. Well, I'll go back. Like when we launched, with shots, but I never really wanted to be considered just a shot brand. I mean, we named it, Shroomi. It's a mushroom brand. So the strategy, the game plan has always been to go into other categories, to other delicious food categories, to kind of spread the word on mushrooms. And so what better than something that people have every day. It's a much larger category in coffee. It's basically a legal drug with the caffeine that people need to have every day. And, mushrooms would, you see, functional this, functional that, and all these other categories, but you haven't really seen functional coffee yet. I mean, you do have Four Sigmatic, you have a couple other brands out there, but it's only a handful. And so we just felt like from just a product standpoint, from getting the brand out there, getting mushrooms into as many people's hands as possible with a product that people are already very comfortable with and familiar with in coffee, was something we wanted to do. And so that's where we're at. We have one SKU and looking to launch another one here in a few months, but we're going to start with this one SKU. It's a focus, functional coffee focus SKU with lion's mane, reishi, and chaga in it. It has double the amount of mushrooms that Four Sigmatic has in the other brands, for the same price. And so it's a fair trade certified organic. We source it from Nicaragua. It's a women-led co-op group of 40 or so farmers down there. And so, yeah, it comes ground in a 12-ounce bag. And so it tastes really good. It doesn't taste anything like mushrooms, but they're definitely in there. So we're excited.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's super exciting. And for me, it feels like Shroomie is just way more than a food or beverage company. I feel that there's a bigger message that you have in there behind, the way that we eat and how it affects our health, our mental health, our physical health. Do you see that as being a really important part of the company? Like we talked about education before. What exciting things do you think the brand can do in the future? Are you wanting to partner up with organizations, or would you ever create your own nonprofit around it, or do you have big
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been reaching out to certain nonprofits, established nonprofits here in the States. There's Active Minds. There's that helps provides resources for young adults in colleges for suicide prevention, mental health resources. There's MAPS. There's American Foundation Suicide Prevention. So we've reached out to some of these and are talking with them for partnerships. There's also retailers that we're starting to talk to that seem to be a little interested in potentially partnering on the mental health awareness front. But yeah, I think just on a higher level with Shroomi, it's like, we're a mushroom company. We support mental health. Mushrooms help your mind and body. It seems to me to make a lot of sense to kind of champion those two, the very symbiotic relationship between the two, ingredient, functionality, mission, and personal story that I have. But also, people have reached out to me online or email and shared their stories about, either their personal stories or someone that they know dealing with the mental health. And so that's been just great to build that community and help any way we can, because we're not going to do it alone. But we have the unique opportunity because we're a food and beverage brand. We have the opportunity to be in people's hands every day and be close up, that we can help spread the word with other food and beverage brands or other, organizations, whatever sector they may be in. We'd love to be a part of that. So that's what we plan to do. And we'll keep doing that.
I love that. I love that. For me, I think, our food systems in the US, in all of the Western world is, fucked up. Let's be honest. Our agriculture, animal agriculture, and our plant-based agriculture with pesticides, and people's attitude to food deserts, the fact that, more people in poor communities and ethnic minority communities don't have access to good fresh food. There's a Taco Bell, or in the UK there's a Subway's or a McDonald's on every corner, and in poorer neighborhoods there's always chicken shops, and there's always grocery stores that just have bags of chips and bottle liter bottles of Coke and nothing else, and it's more expensive to buy an apple and a bottle of water than it is to buy a huge bag of chips and a massive can of soda. And we've got ourselves into a really bad situation. But what gives me hope is that there is a generation of brand owners and brands, I think, that are coming out that now, let's go beyond just shoving something into your face. It's not about that. It's not about this kind of fast food commodity that we have put on our nourishment, because it's causing chronic diseases. Most of the diseases in the West are caused by our diets, and by the stuff that we're putting into our bodies. And I think brands that are building a purpose around what they're doing and actually are putting it into the foods that they're putting out into the world and why they're putting it out into the world. And I think that's going to resonate really well with people now more than ever. To have that kind of, you're not just wanting to make money and sell people a product. You'd make soda or sweets, candy, if that's what you wanted to do.
And there's going to have to be a lot of change on micro and macro level, because there's, you said, if you just want to sell product, make money, like there's a lot of money in the genetically modified world. There's a lot of money in that space. And so to kind of overcome that, we all have to do our part on a micro level, on a macro level, legislation wise. There has to be some changes made there to overcome this, and it's gonna take some time. But there's no reason to wait and try to change this system that we have across the world, really. So we just hope we can be a part of that.
Well, I think we all can, definitely. And I think, it seems like you're making a tiny drop in the ocean, but there was a quote I read somewhere that what's an ocean but millions and billions of drops. So it's like if everybody's just doing their little bit and their little thing, and talks and amplifying it. So, we're talking and other brands will be talking, and whether it's blogs or education pieces or I just think the more we can talk and vocalize about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and our belief in a better food system for all, a fairer food system for all, a food system that moves us away from big pharma and the commoditization of our health into a better, brighter future, I think is really exciting. So I think the more things we do like this, the more that we talk and the more we talk to people, we can spread our mycelium out into the world.
No, this is so great. Platforms like this, hopefully spur on more platforms and more conversation and a higher volume, might amplify it even greater. So this is so great to be a part of.
Amazing. So for people listening in the States, where can people grab a Shroomie?
You can find us online at our website. It's shroomihealth.com. You can also find us on Amazon in the States. And then if you live in California or Utah, you can go Whole Foods, Sprouts, Erewhon, Bristol Farms, Lazy Acres, New Seasons, Harmon's, Jimbo's if you're in San Diego. Pretty much most of the natural chains in California at this point. So go grab one, and that'd be great.
And any thoughts to come to Europe or further afield anytime soon?
We would love to be in Europe. Yeah, we would love to. I've never sold internationally, so that's something that need some help with. But yeah, we'd love to do that, especially with the coffee. So if there's a right partner, retailer, distributor, we'd love to talk with them.
Watch this space, I'm sure. So it's been amazing talking to you, and thank you everyone for watching live on YouTube. We're just starting this platform, so the more people that watch us, the more people that listen to us, share us, we're building up a portfolio of people that we're talking to who are mushroom enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, psychonauts, people around the world doing really cool things with mushrooms. So we're available on YouTube, how you're watching it now. We're also available through the I Am Sound Academy website. I Am Sound is not on social media, but you can check us out and find all our contacts on the iamsoundacademy.com. So I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. Taylor, you stay right where you are. And hopefully, guys, we'll see you all next month. Take care.
Thank you, Zoe.
Bye.